So you can hear me all right? All right. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. Really happy to see all of you. Happy to see formerly Bobby, now Robert Blake, who I hired after I graduated from high school at Aristotle years ago. But yeah, people I've been working with in many capacities and a lot of new faces. Come on in, have a seat. I especially want to thank and welcome again our new Executive Director at the Venture Center. Thank you so much for being here, Arthur. Really appreciate you. And the team here is amazing. Micah, Josh, Mimi, Hamza, Danielle, they're all incredibly supportive, as is the board, and I'm just thrilled to be here and to be a part of it. I think that what we're doing is really making a difference in Arkansas. It's made a big difference for me in my journey in this startup company, and I know for many others. All right. So today we're not really into talking heads. So this is typically an interview scenario. We are not going to be doing an interview, but we do have some questions, some big questions that we're going to answer. Ken is an expert practitioner of facilitating ideation, collaboration, and strategy thrown into a visual strategy map so that teams of people can work together, can bring their own individual insights into the process and help, great things to happen. So thank you so much, Ken, for being here and doing that. So my background, and I heard it just today, but I heard it the other day when I was at a different event. The CEO of Eagle Bank said, "Oh, Marla, I know you. You're the reason I got eaglebank.com." I hear that a lot. So most people know me as the person who went around talking about the internet and explaining the internet to you. And now today what I'm going to do is I'm going to be explaining no-code technology to you. So the automation of building applications. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And I have tried to talk to people about this before and it didn't go well. So they said, I don't understand what you're saying. So this is a big test for me if I can actually explain to you what we're doing. And I am going to ask you if you understand or if you feel that we've demystified what LeapXL is doing and what no-code application development is. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction really to that. First of all, it's in the cloud, right? So we're in the cloud. We have a platform as a service. So this is a technology that sits in the cloud, and out of it, people without having to code can build applications. That means the UI, the interface of the application, the front end, the back end. They can do data integration and data connection from databases or via API. They can connect to external services. They can connect to core systems. So for those of you in healthcare, that would be Epic maybe. For those of you doing work in banking, that would be maybe FIS Global or our local favorite, Smiley Technologies. So lots of companies who provide legacy systems to the banking and financial services, and that is where we are sitting. So you can access it because it's on the web, right? And it's in the cloud. So it's very accessible, fast, and easy to deploy. And what do? We're making mobile and web apps. So these applications can be almost instantly, in fact, pretty much instantly. I mean, we could teach you, in a day to deploy an application on the web, a very simple one. But we can also create enterprise-grade software. And we have now done that. We have now done that for a bank, an entire lending software system, loan origination management system. Yeah, that is being used in banks today. So we have shown that we can do this. And the reason this is important is because you're not only building it and quickly deploying it, but you can do continuous innovation on that platform. So you can constantly be modifying it, revising it. It's highly secure, and you can be creating new components to it, adding to it. And it's for those of you who are in the application development world, you know that when you have to do maintenance, it's like your least favorite thing. So this makes maintenance easier and faster. Okay, so a lot of our, in fact, I just saw a stat today, $500 million a day is wasted in doing maintenance on old applications. So, this is just not the most fun work, and it keeps people from innovating, companies from innovating. So you can also change with the times. So you can actually, meet new customer demands on your application, through this platform. So we're going to show you a 2-minute video, and Micah, are you going to hit it?
Yes,
okay. And hopefully, after that, I'm going to see if we have demystified it for you. Okay.
All right.
This is the Leap no-code platform, which simplifies and automates the tasks of creating, evolving, and maintaining software. Leverage your limited technical resources and innovators to quickly develop web apps, mobile apps, chat tools, customer portals, and dashboards for any device. With drag and drop ease, create your customer interface in the UI Design Studio. Build data and event models in the Event and Logic Studio. Set up roles and permissions in the Security and Compliance Studio. And integrate your new Leap solutions to legacy systems and external services. Tighten the time to test, debug, and deploy in the Diagnostic and Insight Studio, all without having to write lines of code on our cloud-native, technical debt-free environment that is high performance and scalable, so you can quickly prototype, deploy, continuously revise and innovate, clone, copy, and rebrand, and maintain your enterprise-grade solutions without having to code. Leverage AI and other emerging tech in your solutions. Build software with a debt-free eternal life. Have the freedom to erase unending maintenance schedules. Get to building new, future-proof solutions. What are you waiting for? It's time to compete. It's time to leap.
All right. So, one of the questions I got from Amy earlier on was, are you still trying to sell this to banks? The answer is no, because banks don't get it. We tried real hard, met with over 100 banks. However, the companies who build software for banks get it. And so now our customers are clearly these software development firms and other companies like FIS or Smiley Technology who get it and who are trying to meet the needs of their customers. So what other questions do you have that will help demystify LeapXL? You gotta have some questions.
When you said legacy, that means the original? I don't.
Yep, so what we're dealing with a lot is that legacy systems, like maybe you're using it would be SAP if you had manufacturing. It would be, it might be an old, well, I talked to a guy again the other day in a healthcare company. He's got an old COBOL system. I have a friend who's about to retire from FedEx. He's working in COBOL, right? On a system that FedEx has depended on for 20 years, and they just can't get rid of it because they can't replace it. Ripping and replacing is really hard on a lot of these big software systems that make your companies go. So, yeah, so these are the legacy systems we're talking about. They're often trying to modernize them, and I've met with many banks and many other companies who said, yeah, we're trying to modernize this system. 2 years later, JB Hunt's one of them. They're still trying to modernize it. They cannot get it done. And of course, the demands from consumers are coming fast and furious. It's not like anything's standing still. So because it takes so long, it's really hard to do, but this can help a lot. LeapXL can help a lot.
So let me preface my question before I ask to say that one of the things I do is data engineering.
Good.
So how are you tying back in? So I'm assuming you're tying databases, that you're
Yes.
skipping the code.
Okay, well, we can answer that in a minute.
So, and then what databases, and if you're not tying just to databases, how, like Epics? how
Right.
you can set up
Right.
Epics?
Okay, so he wants to know how we're connecting to data and databases. Okay, so we have an integration studio, and you can connect there. You can put in your information for any type of database set, or you can actually put in curls or other information, and you can connect via API. And then you can be pulling and pushing information into those other software systems. Is that a good enough explanation, Ryan? Do you want to elaborate?
Well, sure, you can.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to.
No, that's fine. You can define how you want systems to interact with it. So it's not just like taking the curl and just sticking it in there. You can actually, oh, sorry. You can actually define each piece, step, and relationship you want. So it's possible to say, I have 17 systems. I want to touch those 2 databases and these 15 computer systems by API. I want to do it in this sequence. If this one has that, I want to go there. So if I want to log onto that system, go to this system. So the access to the systems is virtually infinite. You can define anything you can write by code can be defined by the system.
Now, by the way, that reminds me of another question we often get. Because we are a no-code application development platform, so do you have code? So the answer is yes. The platform itself is code, but the platform itself is developed in a modular fashion and can be extensible by the platform itself. So there are a lot of components of the platform itself that are code-free and code-less. So somebody else has asked me before, so what is it if you aren't putting out code? So we are putting out what would be considered an abstraction, a relationship between the user interface, the data, and the logic of the application itself. So that's what's happening, and it's part of why, because we're not outputting lines and lines of code, it's part of what helps on the security front. Jen.
Very cool, Marla. What you're doing is really cool. So 2 questions for you. First, first question is on your business model. So if you are selling access to your, or providing access to your platform to software developers, is it just a SaaS model where they get a license, you charge a license fee, they get full access to whatever functionality? Second question is you know, a software development firm, I'm sure, will be using your platform to custom develop some mobile app or web-based app on behalf of their clients. How much customization is required on your end to help that software development firm do a particular project?
Okay, those are 2 really big questions. So thanks for being here. So number 1, the question in a nutshell is it a license? Is it a subscription? How does a software person or a company access it? So you can get a subscription as a developer and develop on the platform. But what we have found with companies who are software development companies or companies like FIS and others is that they want to have a private instance of the technology behind their own firewall that they can use to develop, and also they want our people. They want our people to come and develop the applications for them also. They don't want to have to train anybody to do that. We have done that. We have trained, we did an installation with Ernst & Young. We trained their people to build on the platform, but a lot of companies want us to supply the people too because of this talent shortage. And they also can't really afford right now to take people out of the development that they're currently doing. Does that help?
And Marla,
Yes, Clayton.
does FIS actually use this software?
So we will tell you that after a meeting we have that's really important tomorrow morning. That's in the commercial lending space. But you know, even they had to see see some banking use cases.
I've worked with them on different packages since the 80s.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of internal politics, and it's a real
Yes.
headache to work with them. So that's why I was asking.
Collins knows, everybody knows, yes,
Okay.
we know, yeah.
Okay.
This has been a long journey.
Okay,
That
good.
POC that we did for FIS that you saw up there, I think we did that in 2021. Yeah, so it's been 2 years.
That's fast then for them.
Yes, somebody else, yes, Matt.
Yeah. So if you're industry agnostic, so built for banking, but you work with healthcare and other industries, right? I'm going to ask a question that's over my skis, but I've spent a lot of time out over my skis, so I'm okay there. If my healthcare company were trying to integrate with an EHR platform, for instance, you mentioned Epic or Cerner or whoever, is the API framework already, if you've already done an integration with someone else using their framework, is that framework already in your system that my team could just layer on top of that framework with our own platform?
Yes. So he has created the segue for the next part of this,
All right.
which is what are the challenges and what's driving the ecosystem itself. Because what we have found is that we have to focus initially out of this gate on financial institutions and tax, where we already have a foothold and where we know a lot about it and where we've already gone through our SOC 2 Type 2 and we've met all of the security criteria for banking. We haven't gone through all of that for HIPAA and all of the healthcare related things, although we can anytime we have the money to do so, if we were hired to do so. But we are focusing on this also because of the other thing you mentioned, which is the challenge of like, who are the 800-pound gorillas in the room? So if a whole lot of banks are on Fiserv or Jack Henry or CSI or whatever platform they may be on in terms of their general ledger and all of their records, then they aren't going to want to just yank that out of their system. They're going to want their innovation and their creativity and the new things that they offer to integrate with those platforms. So this integration piece is really important and always more complicated and time consuming than people would like to say, even with our technology. But still, we're knocking it out of the park. I mean, again, days and not months of integration challenges. So especially if you have somebody who has the institutional knowledge. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in the same way that we have this kind of silver tsunami or this boomer transfer of wealth, you know, the greatest in history, you know, as the people who are currently, you know, made all of this economic boom happen in the United States and other places are retiring. In the same way, this is what I described with that COBOL programmer who works at FedEx. They're retiring, and the institutional knowledge is going away. So that is definitely one of the issues that is driving the demand for this.
Yeah, let's do this, and then, because we've got challenges on the back after that.
Right, okay.
Just
So
I know I
the
have to-
ecosystem, what's driving it is pressure, not enough developers, huge consumer demand. Everybody expects, whether you're in healthcare or financial services, whatever, that you're going to work like Amazon, you know, and it's going to be really a fantastic mobile and texting experience, right? So that is part of what the pressure. Software development companies that we've been talking to, and this again goes from really small ones. We're talking with mainstream technologies, but also Global Technologies, which has 30,000 plus employees all over the world. So they are turning away jobs. They're losing money they can't do all of the work that is coming their way. So they're setting up what is called a fast studio. And essentially, Jeff, to answer your question about like what the product is for that company, what they would get is they would get a fast studio. And they can get either the platform technology, they can also get platform technology and the people also to build applications for them and integrate them with their systems. Then there's the legacy software systems. You guys talked about FIS, Smiley Technologies, again, CSI, some of these. They have, and for those of you who know, they have thousands of products. They're all over the place. They have a lot of challenges in making them, in keeping all of this up to date and relevant for their different target audiences. And so that's kind of their pressure. Some of the companies, not FIS that I'm aware of, but others are actually embedding employees from these software companies. I know that like LinkedIn, Uber, a lot of other companies, Walmart, they have a lot of embedded software developers from these other software development companies. Tech consultancies, we talked about Accenture, Deloitte, a company we're working with out of Atlanta called Genesis Technologies, who just consults with banks on their technology. And then also FinTech Point Solutions. So you already kind of made the connection. Yeah, a FinTech Point Solution might use us to connect to do some integration, or create some layer of application that they would need. So any other questions about the ecosystem? Talent, priorities, costs. I have a bunch of data points, but I might skip it. I've got a bunch of slides here with data about what is making this urgent and expensive. So I can flip through them.
Marla, I think
Yes.
the only other thing you and I talked about is whether you want to say there are big competitors out here in that no-code, low-code space that are a part of this or
Right.
have been scaling to meet it.
Yeah, and that's why we had this slide. Yeah, there are a lot of companies and what's happened is about probably 20 years ago, more of these RAD application technologies came out. So they have rapid application development capabilities. These are tools that programmers are using to program a little bit faster, right? Not fast enough. So then about 15 years ago, a bunch of companies came on that are called low-code development platforms. The low-code development platforms include Mendix and OutSystems, which are both huge. They have employees all over the world. And they are providing more tools, if you will, to developers so that they can develop software faster and more and easily. But still, the audience for it are developers. This has been moving more and more towards this code-free and no-code world because of the talent shortage of people who know how to code, right? So there aren't enough developers out there. Can you take an analyst? Can you take a business professional? Can you take somebody who understands a process and give them the tools? This is the question we're answering, so that they can build the software solution without having to code. Now there's some platforms out there, I mean even WordPress, right, is like a platform that allows you to create a website, right? You can do a lot of stuff on WordPress, but that is a specific for end users. They don't have to know anything about building software. We're kind of in this space where we have a lot more flexibility to create any kind of application. Workflow, data connection, mobile interface, customer support, yes.
Marla, I think for the geeks in the audience, one of the things that definitely does distinguish LeapXL is that its underlying paradigm is data flow. It's not sequential the way, so when we talk about low code, what you're doing, I think, at the risk of having Brian slap you upside the head, is a completely different paradigm in how you think about the software, and it really is just the flow of data in there, and that's different, and a different way of thinking, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you're into data, you're gonna like it. Yes, Clayton.
How are you adapting to the AI movement when it comes to data with ChatGPT and some other type of solutions that are out there today that people are using?
Yes. Well, the cool thing, and I don't know if you want to address this at all, but it's how can you interact with AI? You can talk a little bit about that, Brian. So glad you're here.
The answer to the question is, the technology is agnostic. It's capable of communicating with anything that a computer is doing, because really all it's doing is projecting behavior. So when the ChatGPT stuff came out, I just sat down and integrated it. It took almost 7 minutes.
Via an API? Via an API?
Yeah, we built the API
Right,
and just communicated with it.
right,
The same thing's true for any kind of screwball database.
right. Any other questions? Comments?
So how is this different from like a Power BI or something like that?
Okay, yeah.
Good question.
It's really different from Power BI. Really different. So there's a lot of kind of business process modeling, or there's something that does one little piece of like the application, thinking through the application building, like Power BI, but it is not capable of creating an enterprise-grade software system. And that is the power that we have that they do not have. So that includes integration tools and all of that. Is there anything you want to add to that though? Or Al? Al is a professor at UA
It
Liddell.
did sound like an academic, didn't it?
No, I was impressed. Do you want to tell people a little bit about your experience with your students? Again.
Well, I think the thing that I'll fall back on is when I had the opportunity to go through the training, it's been a little while now, I probably need to go through it again, and learn a lot more, but again, one of my observations, a couple of things. It automatically generates and recognizes the APIs, so it really does build those interfaces for you, and it does it automatically. So you're not having to get in and digest all of the gory details of how to interface with a particular API. It's really smart in terms of the way that it does that. And again, it took me a while to realize kind of what it was, but when you're looking at an application that you're developing, literally you're looking at the flow of the data. And so we're really working at a higher level than if what you're doing is coding in, doesn't matter, Python, whatever it would happen to be. So it really is a different paradigm. So when LeapXL says we're different, they really are different because the underlying paradigm is different. It's not the same. We're not just, as Marla said, they're not just developing tools that allow you to code faster. It's actually generating applications for you, and you're using a completely different mindset when you go into it.
Comments?
I got a question that's been bugging me since you made a statement about maintenance, and maybe LeapXL is a real shift in the way products are created and supported. But maintenance is not evil. It is something that has to be done when you as a software company commit to an organization.
Yes.
You're going to provide a product for them and it's going to do what they need and they're going to keep paying you. You want them to keep paying you. and so in order for them to keep paying you, you got to do things to it over time. If a product is created by a software company using LeapXL, it does, I mean, really, you're still doing the same thing from the point of view of the customer. I'm asking this,
Yeah,
I mean to ask this as a question.
That's fine.
It's just easier to create it. I mean,
Yes.
you don't want something different, I don't think, in every single user. I don't think you do. But maybe that doesn't matter when you use LeapXL. I mean, what if one customer wants it to look a little bit like this, and the other customer wants it to look a little bit like this, and there are ways that is done in the past. How is that kind of thing accommodated here? But mainly I'm concerned about if your customer is a software developer, how do they continue to provide a product that then is enhanced over time and they can continue to be paid for it?
Right. So what's going to happen is you will still be able to do maintenance. I'll let you jump up in this in a minute. You'll still be able to do maintenance. You will still be able to upgrade, to make those changes, but it is crazy easy and crazy fast. Kind of ridiculous. So because you don't have to go back and find out when you add that new component or make that change, all of the things that are broke in that software system, and then have to go repair those things also or make sure that they work. And that is simply because of how the platform was designed. in this data-driven way. And also, we're just continuing to build, Collins, more diagnostic tools to help you also see what you did and how you did it and be able to make changes faster and easier. But you wanted to add to that, Barb?
The overall process remains the same. You're going to do an interview with a customer, you're going to do the research, figure out what it's supposed to look like, you're going to design the system, and then you're going to go back to your office and build it. In this case, the act of designing it is the end of the process. So when you do maintenance, it's the same thing. Go find out what the need is. Go design what the improvements are going to be. And in this case, you use the technology to render the design, and then you're done. The next step simply doesn't exist anymore.
And I can give you one example. When we worked with this one bank, we lost count of how many iterations we did of the application before it was actually ready for them. I mean, they did a lot of discovery themselves of learning more about their process because they thought they understood it. They didn't really understand it that well. So there were a lot of iterations. So there's this kind of constant development, prototype, test. You're basically collapsing the whole software life cycle, but including maintenance. You know, where you can come in and you can make those changes. In the video you saw, the background was black, then it changed to blue, or the header changed to blue. There's all kinds of things you can do on a global scale to an application to change every single thing like branding. So there's, and again, building more and more tools to do it even better and faster.
I just wanted to quickly ask about the deployment options.
Okay.
The deployment is only in your cloud?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case? Or could you deploy it to a private cloud, or could you deploy it independently to something that's not connected to the internet?
It has to live on a version of LeapXL, wherever that version of LeapXL
So that
may be.
version could exist though inside my environment, not touching yours. So if you're down, no problems.
Yes, it can. Yes,
Okay.
and we have done that. So basically, the applications are native to the platform, and the huge benefit to that is almost instant onboarding of customers, instant deployment. You can publish an application pretty much with a click of a button. And then also, you can continue to revise the software without taking it offline, and then publish your changes to the application, and it's
Just last question on the publish side, because you keep bringing that up. Okay, so if I'm publishing to a location, am I publishing the full application to a location, or am I publishing?
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, because
I hear how you're thinking of publishing.
Yeah, because when I publish an application, I publish it to a server over here, and then that's independent. The application is there, it's operating there. Explain that to me on how that changes with your application.
You might not. I understand you're a developer, right?
In the 80s, I was.
I understand why you are getting confused by the use of the term publish.
Indeed. We're capable of setting up the same progression. Like we did that with Ernst & Young. They had 4 different servers that had to publish from one to the next, to the next, to the next. They were dedicated to one for UI, another one for testing, another one for interoperability. And we set it up just that way. But what Marla's really referring to is we have a built-in sandbox. So you can develop on the very same system that people are running on and then not see what you're doing. And then click a button and say, I want to bring everybody up to speed. Or you can send it to the next server and do the same thing, or send it to the server after that and do the same thing. So you can model the processes you're accustomed to, or you can take advantage of the built-in sandboxes and just have the system do it.
And that built-in sandbox could be theoretically in my own environment, yes? Not in yours.
Right. Along with the published environment right next to it.
That's great.
Yep. All right. So any other questions, challenges, issues, thoughts? What's not believable? All right, good. All right, cool. All right, then the next talk, well, I'll just quickly kind of talk about these stats, because this is really these are the pains of our audience, and I'll just kind of quickly go through what they are. So basically a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, security and compliance. This is actually what factors are increasing your cost of software development. So it's, development processes, deployment processes, maintenance and upkeep, and integration costs, right? All of those things that we're addressing in the platform. And then how important are the following when selecting a software development platform like ours? It's got to be highly configurable. It's got to be able to handle complex technical requirements. That flexibility that Al Baker is talking about is why it can get incredibly complicated and be really a whole system. And also then intimate understanding of my business. That's why we're focused on financial services, right, and tax. Ability to customize code, and then enterprise-wide scalability. And the other reason why you want to be on the cloud, even if it's a private cloud, is because the platform is containerized, and the platform is highly scalable vertically or horizontally.
Are you guys a Docker shop? How do you container it?
It's currently Docker's and Kubernetes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kubernetes.
We like saying Kubernetes is just fun to say.
Or Kubernetes, I don't know.
Understood.
Yes.
So I'm a risk person. What sort of QA and control functions do you have built in to prevent, things being promoted before they're ready?
Right. I love this question. So the way, the most risk-averse company we've ever encountered so far is Ernst & Young. So what they did is they purchased a license for all of their environments. Their development environment, their UATC, or UAT they call it, their deployment, their customer facing. So that actually turned out to be a good thing for us, right? So, and that way they can control the process and the roles and the access, because there's huge administration capability where you can control who gets in and what they can do and who can connect data and who can't. So, and they can adjust those for each of those versions of the platform. So that's how they dealt with it. Yes, any other questions?
And one little point.
Okay.
All of the tools that the system is using to handle that administration and governance are actually built in LeapXL.
Right. Yeah. So this is just a little bit about the competitive landscape. You've heard of some of these. You mentioned Power Apps, I think. We run into them. Salesforce also, they have a low-code, no-code kind of capability now that connects to their CRM. ServiceNow, and Excel systems we talked about, a company named Wavemaker, and even Excel. We are still talking to enterprises who are using spreadsheets.
Of course.
The big competitor for us in the no-code space specifically is Uncork, and we are different from Uncork also. And we are more code-free, more modular, more flexible, and they require that you are a software architect basically before you can really use their platform. So that's who we are. In terms of the marketplace, the global marketplace for basically low-code, no-code is considered $187 billion. That's a $187 billion market in the United States. The United States is $87 billion of that. In terms of banking and financial services, this does not include tax, that's $43 billion. And so that's just US, that's just banking and financial services in the US. And so still, any way you cut it, it's a giant market, yes.
So is your software as a service under your 501, or is it under a for-profit business? Because it would make more sense to put the software as a service as a for-profit and then put the other one in the non-for-profit. So how do you guys organize that in your business model?
We are strictly for profit.
Because you mentioned the 501c3.
That was the venture.
The Venture Center is a 501c3. We are not.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to understand. So the organization, the LeapXL, is a for-profit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the
we're
Venture Center here who's put it on this organization is the not-for-profit version
Correct.
of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you.
they're not. We're not affiliated, except for that FIS and the Venture Center selected us to be in the FIS Accelerator Program in 2020.
Excellent.
That's
Okay,
how we
thank you,
first
thank you.
connected
Thank you for.
with the Venture Center. Okay.
You may have been a nonprofit son, but it wasn't.
That happens to everybody, man.
Yes, I wish I had that comeback. All right, so let's see. We've kind of connected, we've really, okay,
So we have about 20 minutes.
okay.
And we had originally thought that maybe a little bit of, you know, what do we see as opportunities and challenges now? And then what do the people here see as maybe
Yeah.
possibilities that are percolating up from what we discussed?
Yeah, we really want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, we did a lot of that already, so.
All right,
So
yeah.
it's your
this is-
choice.
This is good. So I'm sorry for the eye chart. Anyway, this is our own internal map of our, what we call a stock and flow diagram. And what that means is there are certain things that once we achieve that, it's going to open up some other massive opportunities. This is all based on conversations we've had with possible customers or customers. So what we're saying here is that each of these pressures, you know, is saying, for example, we have a lot of people who are really into UI. They're really into front-end design, and they have very high expectations for that capability in our platform. So one of the things we're doing is improving and speeding up the ability to create pieces or that are used throughout your application and to make the UI just more slick and make our apps look cooler. So that's like one of the things we're doing. There's some things we're doing around, you know, we have a lot of expenses obviously around security. So we have to be doing penetration tests and all of that. We're constantly looking to improve the performance and the security of the platform itself. That performance is pretty massive, as you've heard what these companies are doing. There's so much data. I mean, it's a lot of computer power. So that's just a scaling issue, depending on, you know, more and more people using the customer's applications. And then also, sometimes developers are emotionally connected to their ability to code. And so they don't want to ever lose that. That's their value proposition. That's who they are. So part of what we have to do is work to create new, what are called these fast studios inside of these, who are working with and leveraging the developers that they have on their team and supporting them and hopefully taking maintenance work off of them. So anyway, those are just some of the things. I apologize for some of these letters being all over the place. We need more people who can do API work. We're like everybody else. We've got to get more people with API engineering capability. We have 4 people who built this platform, 4 people, developers, who are developing the platform technology. So to scale, we're going to have more people working on the platform technology. The main thing that we're going to need is a lot more people who we can train and improved training and teaching of how to build applications on the platform. And we're so thrilled that, you know, Al Baker has taken it upon himself to teach a class at ULR and get, you know, his students to be building applications and to give us feedback on how that's going. So, but that is a really big challenge for us, is to get more experience building on our platform in the hands of people, trying to identify more clearly exactly what skills you have to have in order to be good at this. You know, those people, every time they build something, they're doing a couple things. They're helping us improve the platform. They are also, this is really important, they're building use cases that become templates and components that can then be stitched together for other people who come and develop after them. So the capability, the ease, the speed just keep snowballing. So any questions about that?
Hold 1 second, because the weight of our good thinking is leaning on that easel.
Okay.
So let me just put it on that one and see if I can hold it up.
So that's really looking into the underwear drawer there. So that's a lot of information. Yeah, that's the reality of what we're dealing with. A lot of great capability, a lot of platform capability, but the need to continue to improve every single piece of it, make every single piece of it even faster, even easier to use. And then we got to get people who can build applications that are no code. So we want to train an army of Arkansans if possible. All right, so our time is up. So let's go ahead and go to possibilities and partnerships.
That's good, because we can't hold up any more ideas on over there.
Okay. So basically, I'm just going to lead it off, but then the rest of this conversation is yours, which is that we think that we can make a big economic impact in Arkansas. We believe that we can help people because all you have to do is get some training on our platform. You have to have the right mindset. I'm not saying just anybody off the street necessarily, but you have to have the right mindset. But you could sit in Marble or Mariana or Dumas or Ozarka or North Little Rock or Little Rock or any place with an internet connection, and you could start building software. So we want to bring these jobs to Arkansas. We want to get more people who can build applications on our platform, and that is one of the things that we're working on and talking to colleges, community colleges, and others about. So, any other questions? We're done, so it's just all questions now.
I got one. Are you familiar with the company that's now working? Sorry. Are you familiar with the company that's now working out of Pine Bluff, among other things, called People Shores? People Shores is a company that is taking people who who desperately need jobs. They go into areas where there are a lot of unemployed and a lot of people that are certainly in the poverty level, and they're training them aggressively to provide services for companies. Right now they're doing claims administration for Blue Cross, doing some call center stuff. You might want to talk to those guys about using this tool to be a developing tool. They have a development shop in New York State where they are providing some fairly sophisticated development work. Ex-EBS guy is the guy who runs it. But that kind of a place where you can bring in people who don't have jobs, and that might be a pretty cool link. I certainly hadn't thought of it until I was sitting here.
Is it Shores? People
Shores?
Shores?
Yeah, S-H-O-R-E-S, People Shores. Yeah.
Other ideas?
Here you go.
Pass this around. Bring it in. Ideas.
Thank you, Marla. So I'm not a techie, but I'm just wondering, when I think about channel partnerships, what are the associations of software developers where you could potentially, go to them and they get a percentage of revenues based on adoption of their or utilization of their membership software development companies, just as a channel partnership?
Any of you software developers in here belongs to some associations you think we should hit up?
There have to be those, right?
There have to be
associations of software developers.
Okay.
And probably multiple industries, they've all got their own, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Even platforms like WordPress have the ability for third parties to build applications within and then sell those applications to people who want to use them. Are you all thinking along those lines?
Absolutely. A development network.
Okay.
Yeah, just at the beginning phases of that, but yes, absolutely.
Second question, what is your platform not good for as far as applications are concerned? Because I see this $187 billion total TAM, and that's for the low-code, no-code marketplace. That supposes that there's a marketplace of software development that is larger than that maybe your application is either not suited for today or, just today, or maybe will be suited for the future. So, what is it not good for today? What type of applications do you not want to build?
Yeah, Brian, do you want to come up this time?
Okay.
Because then the camera will see you.
Oh, no.
You're going to be the voice from the back. We get this question a lot. You're prepared.
Quick examples of things it can't do today. Like create a word processor or create a spreadsheet. So things, or create a design system where you can design a car. So it's not very graphical yet. But if it's data oriented, right now the system's got a great deal of power. We're moving out of that area because there's no restrictions in the technology and it's in its design or concept. It's just the way we edit it and represent what we want it to do. That's where only limitation really is. It's kind of backwards for most people.
And then also, like we've met with like Toshiba Global Business Services and others who are handling so much data from their point of sale systems, like every split second, that we would have to admit that we are not where we could handle that level of data throughput. So we'd have to do some things different to do so. You have a question?
I'll ask a question. Since you're looking at me.
Well, I thought you raised your hand earlier.
So I think building the workforce out is very interesting, but I think a lot of concern might be of who these people are and what level of security and information I'm going to give them. Does it make sense for the projects to come from you and for you to pair people with the projects? And so it looks like it's LeapXL and we're partnering with this person in Jonesboro or whoever, and that's who the bank is working with. Yeah, so there's some vetting and we know that we're just not hiring just some rando. And we're trusting them with, a level of our financial data.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so obviously because of security concerns, every person who comes to work at our company goes through an extensive background check, one. Secondly, and so they will have to pass that background check, whoever would end up being a builder, we call it, or a developer on our platform. Secondly, they will have to go through some kind of certification training, right? They're going to have to achieve some level of training certification. So they're going to have to prove their stuff. Now the good news is that we hired a developer on the platform and 14 hours later he had created a component that actually improved and expanded the capability of the platform. So again, even the platform is fairly easy to develop for because of how Brian and the team have constructed it. So, but yeah, that's a lot of power and influence, and I don't want to overemphasize it. You're still going to have some skills, and you're still going to have to be vetted, I think, through our company.
So when you're talking about an army of people and spread around like in Dumas and DeWitt, Arkansas, building applications, you're envisioning contract employees that will have been vetted by your company that then you'll help them find projects or find projects to them.
And here's another way of looking at it. Right now, a lot of companies who are tech companies, they have to hire other companies to supply their software development talent, and we are giving them that same thing. It's just kind of flowing on down. It's like there's not enough of that. Try this out, and I think the key there is going to always be integration. So once we get the integration, we'll be good to go. Okay, our time is one last question, but this has to be the last one.
So, just curious.
We can also talk afterwards.
Just curious whether you partnered with any of the companies that are coming through the accelerator here, and they built their widget on LeapXL, or could you go to other accelerators around the country and do the same thing?
Yes, we are having one conversation like that right now, but we haven't had many. And it's a good idea. We'll write it down.
Mine's just a suggestion. So the Software Developer Association, the Software Developer Association usually get conferences. I can give you a list of developer conferences. Cool.
That's fantastic.
And then also, I understand easy, and this is an opinion that some people might disagree with. Developers should not design anything. Designers. I could ask people. Yeah. Who are you pointing at this?
Yeah, we can we still need that talent, and I should put that in there, that UI interface, that talent to actually design the interface.
Customers will be much happier with that.
Amen, brother.
I am not in this world. I come from a human resources perspective, and I've listened to your partnership with the schools to attract your talent. Another consideration you might build in addition to them passing a certification is to create a certification that is unique to your company, so that it might be an attraction for new talent to come, oh, I can get this proprietary certification that nobody else is doing right now.
Yep, good thoughts. All right, everybody, our time is up. I'm getting a wrap and a hook. So we'll hang around a little bit. Thank you so much. So do you guys feel that we've demystified to some extent what LeapXL is and what we're doing? Did you get it?
Yeah.